McClelland.
Jordan.
Hey, and we are going to be going over the interpersonal effectiveness clarifying goals. And this is kind of the metaphor we use throughout the interpersonal effectiveness module. And we've got a couple of them. So I'm going to hop on the screen share and I'm going to show you what we're talking about as well. Okay. So we've got three goals here. We've got objective effectiveness, we've got relationship effectiveness, and then we've got self-respect effectiveness. And we're going to go into how each one of these apply to these different metaphors of the bullseye, the teddy bear, and the mountain skills. So let me go back to the handouts. So objective effectiveness. So the way that basically dialectic behavior therapy breaks down relationships is that you have to know what your priority is before you go into an interaction. And so if your priority is a specific target versus maintaining the relationship versus standing up for something you believe in or saying no to something that you won't do, then that changes the way you interact. And so the way we teach it is through these metaphors of the bullseye, the teddy bear, and the mountains. And we'll go more in depth in these with the deer man skill, the give skill, and the fast skill. So let's start with the very first one, objective effectiveness. So this is, if you look at the very top of the handout, it's this one here. So obtaining your legitimate right, getting another person to do something you want them to do, saying no to an unwanted response or request, resolving an interpersonal conflict, getting your opinions and point of view taken seriously. So all of these things. When we're talking about objectives, what we're talking about is aiming for the bullseye. So everything, when I go into an interaction with someone else that's around getting something, this is then the first, that was the number one, first priority. I have a bullseye in mind. Now that bullseye can be saying yes to something or asking for something, and it can be declining something or saying no to something. And either one is fine. And the more intense the bullseye is, the more I care about hitting my targets, the more I intend to respond more directly. And we'll go into that more in the next video, which is the dime game video. And it goes into how you choose your intensity based on how important what you're saying yes to or saying no to is. So when we're looking at objectives, what we're looking at is what do I want and how do I want to get it? And the more clear you are, the more effective the conversation is going to be. And that's what I found is when I talk about ambiguous things or in 20 years of conversation with my wife, it's, sometimes been very direct and we've understood each other clearly. And then there's other times where it's not so direct and we're not so clear and we've got to figure out how to get that done. And the more that I have a target in mind, the better off I am. And even if my objective is not the top priority, if I've clarified that before going into it, then it works out better. And that's where the deer man skill is going to come in, and that's where this is used the most heavily, is with the deer man skill, because the deer man skill is all about formulating what you want to ask or say no to. So Jordan's going to talk about the relationship side, or in this case, our teddy bear.
Our teddy bear. So you go back to the handout.
You just click on. There you go.
Got it. Cool. So with the teddy bear, the goal is the relationship. It's all about the relationship. So this is the second box right here. And the main question that you're wanting to ask yourself with this one is, how do you want the other person to feel about you at the end of this interaction? Right? It's all about acting in such a way that the other person likes you and respects you, balancing immediate goals with a long-term relationship, and also maintaining relationships that matter to you. And so if this part is the number one objective, then that's the one that we want to focus on most, is the relationship. How is this interaction going to affect that?
In other words, when you get to the end of the conversation with that person, you want to know how you want them to feel as you're leaving. And that's the part that matters most, and we'll show you this on the handout. And so the reason we use the teddy bear metaphor is because that, the teddy bear kind of represents that, huggable quality. Like, it was the thing that kept us safe. It was the thing that, comforts us when we were sad. And so relationships, when they're effective, when they're safe, we always have a caveat with interpersonal effectiveness skills. We're not teaching you skills to stay in dangerous and or unsafe relationships.
Right. So,
and the give skill, which can be used to appease someone who's dangerous. Sorry, winter storm warning just hit today, which is weird because it's been sunny all week. So we don't want to use these skills to stay in an unsafe relationship. So we're not saying be comforting and nurturing when the relationship is unsafe. However, when the relationship is effective, when we're trying to work on things, when we're trying to repair things, the teddy bear is a good analogy to kind of keep in mind for that.
Right.
All right, last but not least, when the objective is our self-respect. So this last part. The self-respect means that we know our values, we're sticking to our values, and they're not changing over time. And that's the reason the metaphor we use for this is the mountains. Mountains take thousands of years to form, millions of years in some cases. And they don't change. Oh, I hate it when I get yawning fits. All right. They don't change very quickly either, unless it was a cataclysmic event. Like if a massive earthquake goes through, yeah, then you can change the mountains. But ultimately, mountains don't change except slowly over time. And that's what we want to do with our value system. We don't want to have a changing value system all the time. We want to have a value system that's set, that we know what it is, and that we can either convey it to other people or we can help them understand what that value is for us. So I apologize. I don't know. I can't stop. So when the priority is our self-respect, that means we're standing up for our values, or we're saying no because someone's asking us to cross our values. We're respecting our own beliefs. We're acting in a way that makes myself feel moral, and we're acting in a way that makes me feel capable and effective. These are not trivial things. And so if you don't know your values, and we have some skills for that too, to kind of help you clarify your values, but it makes it really hard. It makes it really hard for you to know how to act and how intense to be. And so if you go and look at the worksheet that's tied with this, not worksheet 3, worksheet 4, this is, and you'll see this one over and over again, especially this top part. In every part, every step of the way of the relationship skills, we always ask these 4 questions. What's the prompting event? Objective in the situation. What results do I want? Self-respect. How do I want the other person to feel about me at the end of the relationship? And then the self-respect is, how do I want to feel about myself? My self-respect always became an issue of, like, I wanted to manage my emotions at the end of a conversation so I didn't blow up or so I didn't go off the handle. And so the more I developed that, the more I felt confident in myself, and the more I could feel like I could stand up for what I believed in a way that was effective, that I didn't have to go to the most extreme version of intensity. And then in the other worksheets that go with this, you'll actually see a place where they tell you to rank, objective effectiveness, relationship effectiveness, and self-respect effectiveness. Which one of those is going to happen, folks? Sometimes you just have to radically accept what is. All right. You're going to be asked, which one of these do you want to put the priority on? And it's not always clear. The more that you know what your target is, the more that you know how you want the other person to feel about the relationship after the conversation is done. And the more you know what your values are, where you stand, the easier it will be to explain to the other person what's going on. And that's, I think, sometimes the hardest part in relationships is really helping people understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And that's what these do. So we'll use this metaphor throughout the rest of the interpersonal effectiveness. We'll come back to it over and over again and hopefully flesh it out even more as we get into the other skills. So anything else, Jordan?
That's it.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.